I'm Nick Altmeyer with linkinglewiscounty.com. I'm here this afternoon with Lewis County Manager Ryan Piche, and this is for our monthly This Month in County Governments segment. So here we are in October, and tomorrow night we have the monthly Board of Legislator meeting. So that's Tuesday, October 2nd. Starts at 5 p.m. here at the legislative chambers here at the courthouse in Lowville. And prior to that, at 4:30, the CNS engineering firm is going to be here to talk a little bit about the JCC project update. Yep. So that is, as well as open to the public. There are a couple of public hearings on the agenda as well. So while we're on the subject of JCC, how's everything going over at the East Road location?
The project is going well. If you have been over there lately or drive by, you'll see that steel is in the air. The building is being framed up. The plumbing has been set throughout the building. The electric is being set now. Once it's all enclosed, of course, all the finishing work can begin, but the Phase 1 contractor and the Phase 2 contractors are working together, and we are still on schedule, and things are going well. All right.
And a couple of the resolutions, while we're on that subject, this month in the packet are for some equipment purchases for the building over there at JCC. Yep. So one's going to be a tractor with a snowblower, mower capabilities, and a loader. That one looks like it's budgeted at $32,000, and then a floor cleaning machine at $5,500. So that's just some maintenance keeping equipment to supply over there at that facility.
Absolutely. So a couple years ago, a budget was built for this building in terms of what it's going to take to maintain the building, and all these types of capital investments in terms of equipment and things that go in the building for maintenance are all part of our agreement with JCC, where they're going to be paying rent back to us to cover the cost of those things.
So the lease amounts that the various organizations will have, those are what is keeps the operating costs of the building.
Absolutely, yes. Yep. The county's commitment is simply the upfront capital costs. The ongoing maintenance is covered by the lease agreement.
Okay. Perfect. We have a local law on the agenda for tomorrow night, and that's to authorize the override of the 2% tax cap. It's just a technicality. I think we do that every year just in case it's needed. It kind of takes a process, a few months to get that enacted, so you guys just like to have it there in case you need to fall back on it. I know you've been working a lot on budget in the last few weeks, so how is the budget looking at this point?
The budget's looking all right. I mean, like you said, Nick, we typically, like to set the hearing for the local law about the tax cap. But like as in years past, I don't anticipate that we will need to go over the tax cap this year. The county treasurer, myself, and all the department heads have worked really hard to trim expenses and bring the tax rate to a acceptable level.
Okay. And there will be a budget workshop that you, the treasurer, and the legislators will be participating in. That's also open to the public, and right now that's scheduled for October 11th from 5 to 7:30. Yeah. And that'll be right here in the boardroom as well.
Right here. That's something a little bit new this year. I mean, I think they've probably done them in the past, but Lewis County hasn't done this in quite a few years. Basically what it is, it's a first preview of the budget that the staff has put together. We'll go through department by department with the Board of Legislators, give them a chance to look at any changes, anything that's different, and give them a chance to weigh in so that when we put the final budget forward in November, it'll reflect all of the legislators' perspectives, along with some of the ideas that staff have put together.
Okay. We do have a resolution in here that is titled Establishing and Adopting a Policy on Sexual Harassment. We talked a little bit about this beforehand, but this is basically a statewide policy that's coming down from the governor's office for all municipalities to enact.
Yes, correct. This is coming straight from the governor for all government entities to have a new sexual harassment policy that is uniform across jurisdictions. It covers not only county employees, but in this instance it covers contractors and other folks who are working on county property. So it's a little bit more all-encompassing than what we had before, and we are complying with the state regulation.
Perfect. It looks like the board will be setting a hearing for November for an unsafe structure hearing for a property on River Street here in the village of Lowville that was damaged in a fire.
Yes.
What does the unsafe structure hearing, what takes place at something like that?
So in order for the county government to take action on a structure that the codes department has deemed unsafe, which we have for the River Street property, we have to give the property owners, the community, and others who may have an interest in the property the ability to come forward and state their interest publicly before we can move forward with taking any action to mitigate the hazard of the property. So we'll set the public hearing. We'll give anyone who may have interest in the property the ability to come forward, and you know, assuming that you know, everyone is in favor with the government action moving forward to mitigate the hazard, that's what we'll do.
Perfect. In the Buildings and Grounds Department, we have a resolution here. Basically, it looks like some just moving around some positions, but it's calling for the elimination of a maintenance worker and adding a working supervisor. So it looks like we're taking away one position, adding another for basically the same salary, very close in salary.
Correct.
Can you just talk a little bit about what the point is behind that?
Sure. So we have a buildings and grounds superintendent, and up to this point we've never had a second in command or a you know, boots on the ground working supervisor for when the superintendent is out of town or unavailable. A lot of times we split work for, you know, we've got crews going in different areas. So this just formalizes that relationship that kind of already exists.
Perfect. We also have a resolution here that will be awarding the contract for the LED lighting upgrade. And I think we've talked a little bit before about the LED lighting upgrade. Basically, we'll be going through and replacing all the fixtures and lights in all the county buildings with more efficient LED lighting, and then some of the lamp posts in the parking lots as well.
Correct. So this is part of the Clean Energy Community Grant that Lewis County received designation from NYSERDA, and it's $100,000. We're using part of it to upgrade all the lights in the courthouse building, and we're using another part of it to set up an electric car charging station that will be in the parking lot.
Okay, and it looks like the county received three bids on that project, and the low bid was awarded to New Century Electric, which is out of Clayton, New York. All right. We also have an agreement with Capital District. Oh, got to read my own writing here. An agreement with Capital District Youth Center for secure detention for juveniles, and this has to do with the raise the age, which actually starts today. Okay, so basically this is setting some new rules in place for how juveniles have to have their own secure detention facility. Yeah,
Raise the Age is an initiative you may have heard of. It's statewide, and it starts today, October 1st. 16-year-olds will no longer be treated as adults in the New York State criminal justice system. They will not necessarily be treated as juveniles either. There's kind of a new category that's been created, youthful offender status basically, and for that we have to handle these cases with 16-year-olds this year. Next year it'll be 17-year-olds. When those folks, 16, 17-year-olds, interact with the justice system, there's a different set of rules than what we've had before. And one of those rules is that for secured detention, we are not allowed to place them in the county jail. So we have to have a contract available with an agency that can provide secure detention, while also meeting all the state standards for safety and other types of quality expectations that have been set up by the state. So remarkably, one of the closest places that we could find to contract with is in Albany. There's not a lot of facilities that do this type of secure detention. Luckily, we don't have a lot of juveniles that need to be detained. In fact, we haven't had a juvenile that's been detained in quite a few years here in Lewis County. So hopefully something that we won't need to use, but a contract that we do need to have.
So currently, well, before today, the way the system was if a 16-year-old got arrested on a serious charge, they would be taken to the county jail?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And now they have to be taken to this facility in Albany.
If the district attorney and the sheriff's office and the probation department agree that it is a violation that really does require secure detention, so something that's violent, that would put other people at risk by not having this person detained. If that determination is made, then yes, we would not be able to place them at the Lewis County Jail. We would have to place them in Albany at this special facility.
And what's the situation for, now is this an immediate placement? If there's not a bed available in Albany, if there isn't, if it's a weekend, are there policies in place? What happens to the 16-year-old during that time period?
Yeah, great question, Nick. I mean, like I said, our volumes are very low, so we're hopeful that this is not something that will happen often. When it does happen, this contract will reserve us some space in Albany at that facility. That said, the capital district counties, Albany, Schenectady, Rensselaer, have preference over us. So if the facility is filled, we won't be able to place, the offender there. There are other facilities, Buffalo. I think there's one in Syracuse that's smaller. So it would be hard, but we could probably find a place, for that offender. But that's part of the challenge with this new raise the age legislation. Regardless of what you think about the legislation, if how we should treat 16 and 17-year-olds, perfectly valid that maybe they need a little bit of separation from the criminal justice system. But the state just isn't set up yet to be able to handle a completely different level of offender, especially with these secure detention. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And like I said, luckily in Lewis County, our numbers are pretty low.
Right. Because I guess that would also run into additional headaches, I guess, maybe with transporting back and forth for court appearances.
Big time, yeah. Absolutely. Those are all expenses that are, definitely on our mind. The good news is that the state has made it 100% reimbursable for any cost incurred because of the raise the age legislation.
Okay.
And we have we are setting up our accounting so that we are prepared to keep track of costs and submit the proper reimbursement when we do interact with these people in our justice system.
Okay. So that kind of answers what my last question on that was going to be with, did any of the affected departments have to increase budget lines this year to kind of meet standards for raise the age?
Social services and probation. Most of in fact, we're still working with our, we have a consultant that helps us with state reimbursement because we've got a lot of departments that use state reimbursement and it's quite complicated if you can imagine.
Right.
So they're actually helping us set up the framework of that accounting structure so that we can set up the reimbursement for the raise the age legislation. But yes, probation and social services have shown increase in their line items to prepare for this new cost.
And then just to touch on, you already mentioned it, but this year we're adding in 16-year-olds. Next year you add in 17-year-olds.
Yeah. So October 1st next year, 17-year-olds will get the same extended rights as have been extended to 16-year-olds this year.
Great. Thank you for explaining that.
Sure.
The last three items we have here are all having to do with the sheriff's office. First one is adding a deputy sheriff position, which kind of gets into our second one here, the agreement with Harrisville for an SRO.
Yes.
So basically, an existing sheriff's deputy is going to be taking over the school resource officer position at Harrisville Central School, which there's an agreement in here for the legislators to approve for that.
Correct.
And then this would be backfilling to add a new deputy sheriff to replace the person that's going in.
Correct. So we'll take someone off the road and put them up in Harrisville, and in order to replace that slot on the road, we'll need to create a new position. And so that resolution creates the new position. Then the second resolution is our agreement with the Harrisville School District for the school resource officer.
Okay. And that agreement's a one-year agreement that's ending at the end of this school year. And then I know you guys, the board is kind of contemplating what kind of policy they might want to work out in the future for school resource officers.
Absolutely. Lewis County is in the same boat as many other counties in New York State. School resource officers are becoming more of a demand and actually an expectation that that school districts have some level of security, whether that's an actual sheriff's deputy or a private security person. You know, if we continue to go the route of deputies, that adds significantly to our payroll on the county side. We've got 5 county school districts. If each of them added a full-time deputy, that's 5 new people on our payroll, and we've got to be wise about how we are going to pay for that and think about the costs. And so we're happy to support Harrisville this year and South Louis this year, and I think they're great programs. But we do need to take some time to think about how we cover those costs going forward.
So you envision before next school year goes into effect that there'll be some kind of formal policy on the end of the county for any school district that would want an SRO?
Yep, the board's going to discuss that tomorrow night, but I would imagine that that's what we're striving for, is some type of universal policy. We want it to be fair across the board for every school district that wants to have a deputy operating out of their school. We just want to be consistent and also cognizant of the price.
The last thing with the sheriff's office here was a resolution in the packet to, it's an agreement with Rocky Mountain Holdings LLC, which is the parent company of LifeNet, I believe.
Yes.
It's for an agreement for $46,000 for air medical for an inmate at Lewis County Jail. Yeah. And if you just wanted to explain a little bit about that, as far as the county being liable for those costs and the insurance portion of it.
So we budget quite a bit every year to cover the costs of folks that are incarcerated through the Lewis County Jail, and they have medical expenses, and it's our responsibility to care for those people and cover their costs, which we do. And so it's not unexpected that we would have costs associated with an inmate. However, a large cost, such as this one, $46,000 for one particular incident, is a little bit out of the ordinary, and that's part of the cost of doing business. Is that when you do take someone into your care, you have to cover their costs, even when it comes to a life flight like this that can be quite expensive. I will say that the original bill came in around $63,000, and the sheriff's office and myself worked with the company to try to get that amount to a more reasonable rate. So we got a little bit knocked off the bill, but it's still a lot.
Okay. And the last thing that we'll talk about here today, which there's no resolutions in the packet for, but it's just kind of an ongoing running issue, with the discussion on the county treasurer position. So I know it came up a few times at a couple of the committee meetings in September. I don't see anything in the packet, so it doesn't look like they're going to be moving anything forward tomorrow night. Do you expect any kind of discussion?
I will say this, Nick. The resolution is still able to be brought to the floor.
Tabled. Okay.
Because it was tabled. Yeah. I think, as you rightly point out, some of the committees have had discussion about what they would like for the future of that position, and what I anticipate that discussion will continue tomorrow night. So
Okay.
I think that there'll be a little bit more discussion about it. I think we have a little bit more information that can, go back to the full board, and they'll continue to work out what the future of that position should look like in their mind.
So our understanding is that their understanding as well is that without being a charter county, that the comptroller option with some qualifications is off the table?
That is our understanding, yes, from the county attorney's office. We've researched the options a little bit further, and we don't believe that a comptroller would be an allowable position in Lewis County. So something that was kind of thrown out on the floor. Not a bad idea. Sounded like a good compromise from what we were looking at, but not really feasible with the structure of government that we have here. So
we'd be back to the two original options, which would be
Correct.
an elected treasurer or an appointed fiscal
Correct.
officer.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So you do expect that conversation?
That will be up to the Board of Legislators. If they want to continue the conversation, they do have a tabled resolution that they can return to at any time. So, we'll have to see.
Is there any kind of timeline that you guys are facing now that you don't have to have it you can't get it on the November ballot?
Yeah.
But what kind of time frame are you looking at as far as people getting their petitions ready?
So we would certainly want to have whatever decision is made, we would want to know for certain what the position was going to be by May, because May is when people really start getting their petitions together and they start to run. I mean, you kind of run all summer up to a fall election, especially with primaries and everything else. So we don't want to get into a situation where we're undercutting candidates who have come forward to want to do the job. That has been unanimous from the beginning from all the board members. There's no desire to do that. So whatever happens will have to be in the next few months, so that we're certainly out of the way for those that may be interested in running for the position.
Okay, great. Is there anything else going on here at county level that we haven't brought up this month?
Not at the county level, but I would like to say congratulations to the Village of Lowville for getting their 5 Streets project off the ground. I think that's absolutely amazing. We need infrastructure investment in our community so badly, and the fact that they took a big step forward and have that project going for 5 streets all at once, I think is truly wonderful and takes a lot of guts, and I give them all the credit in the world, and I wish them all the luck.
Great. Well, again, that's this month in county government, and everyone is welcome to join the Board of Legislator meeting tomorrow night, and that will be right here Tuesday, October 2nd at the legislative chambers here at the courthouse on State Street in Lowville. So thanks again, Ryan, for taking the time today.
Thank you, Nick.
Yeah.